more options for people to eat healthily. People don't cook enough fresh foods and they haven't got time. And then... but I think, you know, Dan's had some... You know, so yes, I've gone over vile, divisive and hateful.
Hello. Now, I was just about to make a short video about the Triggernometry recording with Laurence Fox, and suddenly there's this stuff which has popped up about Moya, Lothian, McLean and Connor Tomlinson. Connor was paid for his interview on Sky and Moya was not, or Moya was paid significantly less. It just seems that is such a scandalous oversight. It's not just GBNews which is a problem at the moment. There's a problem running through media. There's a problem running through politics. And part of the problem that we've got is this obsession with tribalism. This tribe does no harm. This tribe does no wrong. This tribe is evil incarnate. It's simply not true. It's simply not true. And I thought, first of all, I want to say that the people on the Triggernometry show were extraordinary, and you know, they got a performance out of Laurence Fox which was astonishing. Konstantin Kisin and Francis Foster. Konstantin particularly was just so clear that Laurence had overstepped the mark, he'd crossed the red line, and yet he was welcome. And Laurence, for his part, I think demonstrated exactly why I have this completely contradictory attitude to him. On the one hand, I think he's a good fellow, whereas I don't have the same feeling about Dan Wootton. But on the other hand, I think he's been very foolish and foul-mouthed, and actually deserves to be sacked. And I think Konstantin takes exactly the same view, and I'm rather entertained by that. Laurence came across as utterly vulnerable and frankly endearing. I'm sure the comment section is going to be full of the fact that I'm easily charmed and all that sort of rubbish. I'm really, well, I want to be. I want to think the best of people. And I thought the best of Laurence here because he was given a little bit more freedom to explain what he was talking about. He also explained how he was taken to one side, and what he said, including the shag line, was approved. And that, I think, is the key. That is something that I brought up earlier. That this is not just about Laurence Fox or Dan Wootton. This is about the production methodology that lies within GBNews, and that needs to change. And you can't just point a finger of blame and say, oh, you're the people who crossed the red line. They did, but they crossed the red line with your connivance. Laurence explained on Triggernometry that he is reckless, but he's an actor, and as an actor he's been trained to be emotional and to follow that emotional direction. He talked about misandry, which I know is a sort of word, but it's not a good word. And I thought for a second that he was talking about a character from Mary Poppins, you know, the nasty nanny who ministers treacle and cod liver oil or whatever it is. But Lawrence agreed with the other two interviewers that it was disrespectful what he said. It was disrespectful not only to Ava Evans, but also to the programme and to women in general. I think it's disrespectful to everybody. There was a discussion within the programme about whether or not the expression itself was particularly bad. Shag that rather than shag her. To depronoun somebody, to make her into an object. That's appalling. He said it wasn't his intention and what he was going to say, but the tone was wrong. And what I found so sad was he was there to highlight something important. And this program got to that, how emotional and how personal it was for him to talk about male suicide. And he was talking particularly about people who had been involved in Afghanistan in war, and they'd come home, they'd seen their colleagues die in ghastly circumstances, been unable to help, and then tried to live with that, and were unable to. And I thought we were able to observe how benign, how vulnerable he is, and I wish that was something that had been projected into the GBNews scenario, because that's what we want to see. We don't really want to see these talking heads pontificating and overproduced. We want to get into the real character of somebody and what, how the news generates this opinion, how the news generates this response. And I thought this was sensitive and thoughtful. I cannot overpraise Konstantin Kisin and Francis Foster, particularly Konstantin, who was so clear about this is wrong, and then gave him time to explain. They also asked, how does he reconcile this sort of foul banter with his faith? And again, he was hugely emotional. And he said how much he disliked the fact that Ava Evans, instead of allowing this conversation to go on in the Politics Live, went on about the gender pay gap, when the story that needed to be discussed was not discussed, and indeed was blocked by somebody else. I hadn't fully realised that, but it's that projecting of vulnerability. Then he went into another issue about how he thought a trap was set, the bait was him, and GBNews took the bait, and that this is now the beginning of the effort to cancel free speech, because now that GBNews is demonstrated as cancelling one of their own. I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think it needs to end in that way. I think what GBNews needs to do is to rethink its remit. Its remit is to link the news with opinion. Its remit is to be discussion. Its remit is to have a discussion about the news, and a much freer discussion than perhaps would be permitted on ITV or BBC, but certainly not perhaps as free as you would expect in the pub or in some sort of back alley. they played a sequence of Adam Bolton from Newsnight, who was saying, "Shut it down, like shut down RT." Well, uh, I've I was initially approached by GB News, and I've been approached and have in the past done things on RT, and I think Adam Bolton is detestable, really. They then played another sequence of Adam Bolton where my instinct about Adam Bolton was confirmed. Really, he is detestable. He's petulant and nasty, all revealed. But mainstream media has its faults, as they pointed out. Mainstream media, they tolerated Russell Brand and Saxgate. They tolerated Martin Bashir and Diana, but they're not tolerating Laurence Fox. And because of the Laurence Fox thing, they're now saying cancel the television station itself. Fox went on at great length saying that this free speech, this openness, is part of the USP, and that GB News is there to confront the, I can't remember his exact words, but the sense was it's there to confront the monolithic and bland culture of broadcast news in the UK. And we shouldn't be thinking about cancelling the channel itself. There's already an advertising boycott. He says there's a broadcasting ecology against them. And he started blaming GB News for being regulated when Konstantin came back and said, no, what you're actually doing is you're blaming OFCOM. OFCOM, this sort of gatekeeper, which is out of date, which is out of touch, which is, frankly, dysfunctional. OFCOM is where the problem lies. Not, I think, with GB News, not with Talk TV. Though I think there are problems within both Talk TV and GB News. Part of the problem that needs to be addressed is, should we be allowing current politicians to be presenting television programs? No, I think we should not. That's an issue within the debate about these new television channels. And I think that's a debate that Ofcom should be having. It is having it in a modest way, but it should have been having it right at the beginning. I don't understand why it's taken so much time. And equally, I don't understand why Lucy Fraser is so cautious about condemning the Jacob Rees-Mogg involvement and so on. Jacob Rees-Mogg, as I've said on many an occasion, is a superb presenter. Again, I don't share all his views. Why should I? But he's an excellent presenter. And Esther McVeigh is just boring. In the same way that that Dan Wootton is smirky and unattractive, I find. Tom Harwood is extraordinarily agreeable. I mean, I just find his presentation very good. And we don't see so much of that now. I think he's doing some management thing, which is a shame. But it needs to be restructured badly. And I think it needs new blood. It needs a rethink. And I would I would like to see more of Laurence Fox, but not in the context that we saw him. I think we need. I think actually what we need is Konstantin Kisin in the chair, and we need that sort of relaxed environment that we've got in this Trigger Triggernometry on GB News. That's what we need, and because that clearly brings up something we don't get in mainstream television. And we should. We should. There's no reason why this should be consigned to YouTube or wherever it is. No reason at all.